right, everybody, back with today's Cabral concept. This is our Friday review. Can't wait to get into today's show. A brand new product review. 3 out of my 4 family members are now using this. I'm excited to share that as well. I'm a little late to the party. It's one of the most popular sleep-based, let's say, techniques that's going on right now. I want to share with you my results as well. I'm going to be going over one of my favorite new researchers in the health/fitness-based space. This individual has been around for a long time. I totally forgot. I read one of their books back in the early 2000s. I'm going to bring you some of their research here today. One is on anxiety and improvement there. And the other that I want to bring you is actually in the immune-based space and susceptibility with exercise and how to improve that overall. So I'm excited for today's show. Of course, we always start with our recap. Today's recap is, well, we're about 1 week out from our global functional medicine detox that just took place. One of my favorite things to do each and every 12 weeks is get the community together for us to be able to begin to empty that rain barrel to a greater degree. Now, if you didn't participate starting on June 8th, that's okay. You can begin really anytime over January, maybe early February, and we do another end of March, early April. So what a functional medicine detox is your way of essentially wringing out your body's sponge to help you eliminate toxins to a greater degree. Again, this isn't pseudoscience, this is actually real science. We talk about, if you want to get the free course, it's completely free, the cytochrome P450 pathways in the liver, how to speed up liver detoxification, how to improve overall sleep, brain clarity, hormones, blood sugar levels, inflammation, and much more. The course is completely free. You can find it at stevencabral.com/courses. Just click on the detox one, and you'll learn everything that you possibly want to know, maybe even a little bit more on liver detoxification and how that improves overall health, weight loss, weight gain, longevity, anti-aging. I highly recommend it. And to find the detox that we use, meaning like literally hundreds of thousands of people around the world, we ship to 27 countries. You can find that at stevencabral.com/detox. All right. Let's dive into the recap from the week. So recap 2901. So that was the start to this week's show. It was on do this once a month to remove all regrets. This is something that I'm using for 2024. And I'm inviting my 2 daughters, they're now 9 and 11 years old, to participate in essentially not the misogi that I spoke about before, but how to set up a schedule, a structure for just 1 day a month, 2 maximum, on doing something that improves and enriches your overall life, something that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And so I love the idea of inviting my daughters in to choose these things, to have these experiences as well. Check out all the details at 2901. So it's just stevencabral.com and then / the podcast number. All right, 2902 was the top toxic clothing materials to avoid. You want to check this out. And if you have those types of clothes, what to do in order to mitigate some of the harmful off-gassing from those. Okay, stopping winter colds in their tracks. Everybody wants to listen to that. Certainly, for sure. I give you essentially top 10 ways to lower your susceptibility to getting sick in the first place. And if you're starting to get sick, what to do. That was episode 2903. And then episode 2904, yesterday's show, was the 9 foods, so supporting foods, to increase skin collagen and elasticity. We had some animal-based foods. We had some plant-based foods. Check it out, because this is one that we all need as we start to get older. All right, that was the podcast recap on the Cabral concept for the week. And of course, to find all previous 2,904 podcasts, head on over to stevencabral.com/podcasts. All right, fun product review of the week. I'm going to share it with you right now. Now, this is probably the most popular mull tape in the world right now. And they've literally hit the scene by storm, as they say, and they've grown massively in popularity just over the last 2 to 3 years. So my family and I have been mull taping now maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years, not a huge amount of time. It's not something that I necessarily do on a nightly basis. My wife does it more on a nightly basis, and so does my oldest daughter. And I want to be doing it more on a nightly basis, but I just haven't found a comfortable malt tape. That's the honest truth. I've used a malt tape that goes around the outside of my lips and kind of purses my lips together. So that's a nicer one that worked for my daughter as well. But then it starts to like irritate all around the lips. And so I'm like, I don't know if I really love this one. And then I was using just like regular medical tape, like 3M tape, but it wasn't really sticking. It wasn't really staying in place. I could breathe through the side of my lips. And so I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm fine. My HRV is doing well. My deep sleep's at 70 to 90 minutes a night. My REM sleep's over 2 hours. But nonetheless, especially during like the winter months, the colder weather, I found myself kind of drying out my nasal passages, drying out my mouth. And I was like, I want to go back to it. So some of these things are just serendipitous. I actually got introduced to the founder of a company called Hostage Malt Tape. And I was like, this is the most outlandish name for a company that I've ever heard. I'm like, why are they calling it Hostage Malt Tape? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to put up a piece in a second. So if you're watching this on video, here we go. But when I spoke to the founder, who was like really level-headed, and he's like, no. Meaning you don't want to be held hostage to bad sleep anymore, to snoring. We had so many men, he said, and women as well, who snored and actually had to sleep in a separate room from their spouse or their partner. And I was like, oh, I get it. I know people in college that have been loud snorers, and it's a problem. It really is. Like, you need to fall asleep before the person who's snoring so that you're not up all night from the sound of them snoring. So I was like, oh, that makes sense. You're being held hostage by poor sleep. Well, since then, I've seen so many people talking about it. And so I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I literally just bought a bunch. And this packet right here, so you can see it says Hostage Tape. It's a piece of basically what looks like black tape, but it's not just black tape. And they actually have these tins. So I'll travel with this tin. It looks like an old Altoids container. And inside is this strip of tape. Now, it has a little split right in the middle. So I'm going to peel it off and just basically breaks away. And the big difference with this malt tape is it's very similar. I did a review when I had hurt my wrist previously of like Kinesio tape that was really, really helpful, really beneficial. Here's the big thing with this. People love it because if you have facial hair, which I don't, it stays on, which most malt tapes do not. It's also a stronger malt tape. So if you're someone who's like moving around a lot, it won't peel off. But the big thing is that it actually is breathable if needed. So if someone all of a sudden needed to get air in through their mouth, you can actually breathe through this malt tape. But what it does over time is it trains you to breathe through your nasal passages. Now, I have a whole podcast on why you only want to be nasal breathing when sleeping. So let me see if I can find that for you. And if not, we'll just link it up. Well, why don't I do this? We'll just link it up at stephencabral.com/2905. And I'm also going to link up Hostage Tape here. So I'm going to put it on right now, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. So if you could hear that right there, I was actually breathing through the malt tape if I needed to. And one of the reasons why, again, people like it so much is that it covers all of the lips. It's easy to put on. When I take it off, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't affect or irritate the skin. And it enables me to just focus on nasal breathing. Now, let's say you're not someone who's ready to start only nasal breathing at night. My biggest reason as to why you want to consider it. Even if you think that you're fine, by keeping your mouth closed at night and by keeping the tongue to the roof of your mouth, you actually greater induce a parasympathetic nervous system tone. A lot of people don't know that. When the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, it calms the nervous system. You're in a state of more parasympathetic nervous system relaxation. And when that happens, you can recover to a far greater degree. That's my number one reason for now going back to it. That's the truth. Is to make sure the tongue stays up to the roof of the mouth. The other big thing is we're meant to breathe through our nose. It enhances what's called carbon dioxide inside of the body and the blood, and that enables then more oxygen to the tissues. That's really what you want. Now, if you're not comfortable at night doing it yet, here's what I recommend. Use it during the day. Just when you're at your computer, put on malt tape, get yourself used to it. I actually just had this conversation with my mother-in-law, and I said, yeah, you're not comfortable at night because you have a deviated septum. I get it. Like, I have a really bad deviated septum on my right side. I've broken my nose twice in my life. I've had my adenoids taken out. They actually had to break my nose. I guess technically that's a third time to intubate me with tubes because I couldn't breathe, and I was under anesthesia at that time. Anyway, so a lot of broken noses, completely deviated right septum, like barely can breathe through that right side. Well, if you eliminate the food sensitivities and you get really your inflammation levels in check, which I had to do first, I would never have been able to do this in my early 20s because I couldn't breathe through my nasal passages. What happens is you can train your body to be able to breathe through it. So now when I go for a run, I'm breathing through my nasal passages, steady state, of course, not sprinting. And then during the day, I practice with them keeping my mouth closed, breathing through my nasal passages, and this malt tape helps you to do that. It's also very inexpensive. That's why I'm promoting it. I like health. A lot of these health technologies, like the watch that I'm wearing or the ring that I'm wearing, hundreds of dollars, if not close to $1,000. This is like 50 cents a day. Right? So it's really inexpensive, very, very helpful. Next week, why don't I do this, or the week after, I'll go over the nasal strips. So if you're someone with a deviated septum, they have great nasal strips as well. I'll talk about that on a separate show. Head on over though. This is something that I always am able to, I shouldn't say always able to. I push hard for you. So I've been using it for 2 months to get you a better discount. So head on over to hostagetape.com/Cabral. That's it, hostagetape.com/Cabral, and you'll get a month free right there. All right, so check that out. If you're already using Hostage Tape, let me know in the comments how you like it. And again, it is without a doubt, there's not even a second. This is my favorite malt tape for sure, and I've got 3 out of my 4 family members now using it. Okay, let's move on now to book review and research. The book review is gonna flow right into the research. So one of the let's say researchers that I recently rediscovered. So knew their work in the early 2000s. And it's David Neiman. So I just want to share Dr. David Neiman. I believe he's a doctor of physiology. And David currently works for the Appalachian State University Human Performance Lab. I believe he's also a professor there. All right, he wrote a book that I totally forgot that I read. I literally went back to my bookshelf and I'm like, did I read that book? I think I read that book. And it's called Exercise Testing and Prescription. So back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I read anything and everything I could on fitness, exercise, and wellness and nutrition, how they all fit together. Like, that was my main focus. It was like a triad of exercise, nutrition, and we'll call it like supplementation or wellness. I wasn't yet on the sleep train yet. I wasn't yet on at-home functional medicine lab testing or the emotional-based balance or even like deep levels of stress or detoxification. But I was on those 3, and I was really laser focused on that. I got American Council of Exercise certified, National Academy of Sports Medicine certified, National Strength and Conditioning Association, CSCS, bunch of certifications, bunch of nutrition certifications. And lo and behold, one of the textbooks I read was actually called Exercise Testing and Prescription. So they've multiple updates. I think they're in their like 6th edition by David. If you are in the fitness-based realm, a personal trainer, or someone just really loves exercise, great book, worth checking out. It is a textbook, but certainly textbooks are amazing to read. I learned a lot of my knowledge from textbooks because you can delve deeper into all of these topics. So really good book on how exercise helps with the management of the aging process, prevention of chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, cancer, osteoporosis, and arthritis. All right, so that's that. Now, 2 research studies that I want to share with you, though, are by David. I found that to be extremely interesting. Now, it's David and his colleagues, but this first one was with 1,000 individuals, and it's titled Anxiety Sensitivity Mediates the Relationship Between Exercise Frequency and Anxiety and Depression Symptomatology. Okay, I'm going to break down what the study said. So basically, over 1,000 people, it looked at this anxiety sensitivity index. And what it found was the correlation between the more days a person exercised per week, or the more frequently, meaning like not going 3 or 4 days in a row without exercising, the less anxiety they had. And the less anxiety they had, the less chance there was then for the progression of other, what they called emotional disorder symptomatology. And so what they found was that exercise in and of itself, moving the body through cardiovascular, weight training, etc. Like literally moving the soma, the body, helped to reduce anxiety, which then helped to reduce symptoms of depression and other emotional-based, and I'm using disorders in air quotes. So I found that to be really impressive. And the reason is this, is that you don't need the fanciest exercise routine. If you're suffering from anxiety, PTSD, depression, any mental health-based symptoms, I urge you to exercise on a near daily basis. Definitely never taking off more than one day in a row. That's it. And that is because the science does show, and it shows it over and over, that exercise itself beats SSRIs, antidepressants, in head-to-heads, literally. And so, and it beats the placebo too. There is something truly magical about moving our bodies. Start with walking, then move into whether it's jogging or your favorite cardio or cycling, rowing, and some weight training. And if you do that, don't take anything to failure, because you want to be doing this on a daily basis. And that, do it earlier in the day, is going to set you up for success. Great study by David and his colleagues. I'm going to link it up here today. The next research I want to share with you, also by David, I'm geeking out on David Niemann's work here. It was pretty remarkable. I found a page about him. It's got like a lot, we'll call it the tens of thousands of references to his work. But I saw 31 studies. And I actually went through and I read about a dozen of his studies, and I chose these two for you. I felt that they were very pertinent for our community, for our audience. And there's a lot of practitioners listening, so you'll use it for your patients and wellness clients as well. All right, this next one is, can exercise affect immune function to increase susceptibility to infection? So it's fascinating. But what they found was that over-exercising, and I've talked about this on a Friday review before, lends you to be more susceptible to infection, because it lowers white blood cell count. So I've talked about that. And it's important but you can mitigate that with a carbohydrate-based smoothie solution. It's called like a solution, meaning like the smoothie itself, during your workout. So that was impressive itself. However, what they also found was that, and this is in the Journal of Sport and Health Science, it suggests that being physically active makes you less vulnerable to getting sick. So as long as you don't overdo it, which is also part of David's work, he shows that the data shows that physically active people have a 40 to 50% reduction in the number of days they're ill with acute respiratory infections. So the quote goes on to say, in short, exercise is good for all of us, mentally, physically, and emotionally, and just finding the sweet spot between exercise intensity and volume, meaning like volume is the amount of sets or the length of time, and intensity is how hard you go. It's individual. It really is. There's bio-individuality to this. And as long as you find your sweet spot, and if you're getting enough sleep and exercising, great. If you don't sleep enough one night, you might have to go a little bit less the next day. But find your sweet spot. But do exercise, because exercise, I mean, look at that. Half the amount of essentially illness days, right? From upper respiratory infections, which are basically virus-based colds. I talked about that earlier in the week. Ear, nose, and throat-based issues, half of them if you exercise on a regular basis. So really impressive. Great work. I guess this is my hats off of the week to Dr. David Niemann. Appreciate all of his work in the field. Hopefully today's show was helpful. I appreciate all of you. Of course, if the show was helpful, always do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it can serve. And on the weekends, coming up tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, I answer our community's questions, about 10 to 12 questions per weekend. Don't miss it. Take care, everybody. Hope you have an amazing weekend. I'll talk with you tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.